Hello, yes, and welcome to the Irish Football Fan TV First Division show for this week with myself, Jared Brown, and Gary Spain. A busy show ahead you as we have a double game week to look back as all 10 teams had two games over the space of the last 4 or 5 days, and this weekend's games to look ahead to as well. Before we start looking back on the action and looking ahead to this weekend, how's all with yourself, Gary? How are you keeping?
All well. Bit disappointed with that government announcement yesterday, and we'll see how that affects. But it's sad to see we're back to zero fans at games.
Yeah, obviously it looks like last night's matches between Cove and Wexford and Bray Wanderers and Shamrock Rovers 2 could be the last games for at least 3 to 4 weeks, if maybe not the rest of the season, where a limited number of fans were allowed in. And obviously, we'll find out more about what these new regulations and restrictions mean today. But we won't kind of dive too much in the negative. We'll kind of stick to the slightly more positives and on the action, on the field action. As I mentioned, like the fact it was a double game week, instead of maybe kind of looking back over each kind of game, we're kind of just taking a look at kind of each team and how they performed over them two games. And once again, it's hard to not look past Cavan TV. They kind of really set the standard with two impressive victories. Firstly, beating Cove 1-0 at Stradbrook on Friday night. Didn't have their own way. Their goalkeeper, Michael Kelly, was quite busy in that first half. Cove's causing problems, but they eventually dug deep in the second half. Shane Barnes, who's been on fire this season, he got the winner 15 minutes from the end. An outswinging cross from Paul Fox. Keith Dalton done well to keep him in play, and in doing so, he also set it up nicely for Barnes to tap in. And then they probably had their most impressive of the victories over the few days when they went to the Midlands and bet Longford 3-1. And by all accounts, from reading the report of this game in extra time, while Longford didn't help themselves, Cavan TV were very impressive.
Yeah, so Cabo, they keep defying expectations. They keep defying the odds, and they keep winning. And I mean, Pat Devlin has done some job there, and I believe they're struggling with a lot of injuries as well. So yeah, that Cove game, they struggled. Did they deserve to win? By all accounts, it was a close game. Cove, Stuart Ashton's team played really, really well. But yeah, Shane Barnes got the winner. A late goal, 15 minutes from time, as you say, Ger. And that's really a sign. If you're going to win a league, you have to win the games when you're not doing so well, when other sides are playing well against you, when you're struggling. You're going into the last 10 or 15 minutes of the game and you're still level, and you find a way to win the game, whether you deserve to win it or not. And you have to say, Cabo, keep impressing and impressing. And then they go down to Longford. Now, the star for last year for Cabinteely was Rob Manley with all the goals. How are they going to replace him? Well, they went down to Longford and scored three. Zach O'Neill, Kieran Marty Waters. What a play for Kevin Knight for the third one. And by all accounts, as you say, they absolutely destroyed Longford. They were 3-0 up. They were just in total control. Joe Gorman got a late consolation for the home side, but they were well beaten.
Yeah, another thing that kind of impressed me about that game was after scoring the winner on Friday night, Shane Barnes played a crucial part in two of them goals. And I remember chatting to him after a second game of the season against Athlone when he came off the bench and scored two goals, and he was kind of very keen. And his next impression now was to start getting on that team sheet a lot more regularly and become a starter. And he's really done that because the following week he got the winner against Shamrock Rovers 2 the week before. That was the last game before lockdown. And since then, he really has kicked on. So he really has delivered on his word from when he spoke to me last February.
Yeah, I actually must admit I haven't seen Cabo play yet, Ger. But so I am looking on for afar, just reading reports and watching clips on the SSE Electricity FEI highlight show. But it's, yeah, he, as you said, he's got some crucial goals, and he's proved more than an able replacement for Rob Manley.
Yeah, he's only a young lad, I think 22 years of age, previous experience in this division with Wexford. Let's talk about Longford, because that was a crucial kind of game for them. If they really wanted to kind of put their hand up and say, we're going all out for automatic promotion this season. They have a lot of work to do now after that defeat. They're 6 points behind. They did have a good victory on Friday night away to Galway, so it wasn't all doom and gloom. Wasn't the prettiest of games, this victory against Galway, and it was a bit of a fortunate goal where they won at 8 minutes from the end. It was just kind of a long ball, hopelessly kind of aimed forward. Should have been a routine enough catch for Galway keeper Kevin Horgan. He didn't deal with it, he fumbled it, and it fell nicely to the path of Aaron McCabe, who struck home. And that kind of, them last 4 days, it kind of pretty much sums up their season, because their previous 3 games before that, they took 4 points. So they just seem to be a very inconsistent team. It probably seems as if lockdown affects them, because they were probably, along with Cabo, the most impressive team back in March.
Yeah, so it was a very good win to go to DC Park and beat Longford. As you said, he was against the run of play.
Or
Aaron
beat
McCabe,
Galway,
sorry, for Longford to beat Galway. Yeah.
Yeah.
So it was an impressive win to go there and beat Galway, with Aaron McCabe coming off the bench to score that late goal. And but then it's typical of their inconsistency. It was against the run of play, I believe, as well. But I mean, I was making the point for Cabo to win is a good sign when you win 1-0, when maybe you're not expected to with a late goal. So you have to say hats off to Longford for that. They would have been going into the Cabinteely game on Monday night saying, look, we win this game, we're right in contention, maybe even favourites to win the division. They really would have fancied it, and they were just blown away. And it's hard to say, as you say, they've been inconsistent. It depends what Longford team you see week in, week out. And I suppose if you look at the division in general, I mean, apart from Cabinteely so far, who, apart from that draw in Wexford, have been perfect, it looks like nearly anybody else can take points off anybody else. So it's at this stage, it's Cabo's to lose. They've got a 5-point lead, and Longford are struggling.
Yeah, as you mentioned, kind of the 9 teams, there doesn't really seem to be a lot between them. Like, as you know from being at 2 games over the last couple of days, which we'll get to the while, like Athlone, who'll be seen as one of the weaker teams in the division, like they had a great result against Drogheda, and like we're really unlucky against Athlone. They've been super competitive. So it really kind of just is it's a case of whoever can kind of get on a run of maybe 2 or 3 consistent wins, and they can start challenging Cabinteely. We'll just touch on Galway there as well, because that 1-0 defeat was followed up by another 1-0 defeat away to Drogheda on Monday night. Chrissy Lyons with the only goal from a penalty after 12 minutes. But Galway, really were unlucky in this game. They hit the crossbar twice in this one through Captain Shane Duggan, and the other effort coming from Maurice Nugent. Like, they were meant to have really pushed Drogheda all the way, but they've been definitely, without a shadow of doubt, it's easy enough to say they've been the most disappointing team in this first division, possibly across both divisions this season. And now on the look for a new manager after Alan Murphy called it a day.
Yeah, I mean, Alan Murphy's left the club, as you say. It'll be interesting to see who gets the appointment. Yeah, they've been a disappointment. I mean, I actually saw a lot of First Division last season, obviously as a Limerick fan. And Galway were one of the teams that probably, if you were looking at the table, you could see, I thought, it could be a lot better than the table looks. They had looked really, really good at times. And I actually was one of the people that thought they would really kick on and challenge for promotion this season. So the fact that they haven't won a game yet is shocking. 2 1-0 defeats. Yeah, you said they were a bit unlucky, and yeah, they were probably worth a point on Friday night, judging by the highlights, judging by the report. It was a good win for Drogheda on Monday. It was rather a stupid penalty, I'd say. It was a clumsy challenge by Jack Lynch and Chris Lyons, and he got up and took the penalty. Yeah, Galway they'd probably argue they were worth the point. I think Drogheda would probably argue they were value for the win. They had their chances as well. But yeah, it's been a disappointing season. Now, all is not lost for Galway. They have eked out a lot of draws, so they haven't actually. They'd only lost, I think, was it 1 game before this weekend. So, and they're still, believe it or not that far off at least the last playoff spot if they could get a run of wins together. But it has to be just very disappointing. And it's probably no surprise Alan Murphy has left the club given the results.
Yeah, I think given the lot of pre-season talk about Galway and a couple of signings that they're making and the noises coming from the West of Ireland club, there was kind of a feeling, the expectation that they were going to be highly challenging for first spot. And to hear you talk about they can still challenge for fifth spot while it still offers them an outlet for promotion really kind of just wasn't something that they would have been looking at. But it is what it is. Their opponents, Monday night Drogheda, they now remain the closest challengers to Cabinteely. They're 5 points behind them. a bit of an eventful few days for them. They went to the Midlands and got a 3-3 draw against Athlone, a crazy game. This one, they went 1-0 behind through Ronan Manning after a lovely free kick from fullback David Brooks. They then equalised, real touch of fortune. Jake Hyland's shot crashed off the crossbar, hit off goalkeeper Aaron Miles. Probably didn't know a lot about it, ends up in the back of the net. They then go 2-1 in front through youngster Brandon Birmingham. They went 2-1 behind actually. Lee Duffy
behind.
Lee
led
Duffy
again.
put Lee Duffy pushed Athlone back in front early in the second half and he rounded the goalkeeper. Then it was Brandon Birmingham, the youngster, he got the equaliser. They looked like then in injury time that they had won it. They got a penalty. Chrissy Lyons slotted that away, but there were 7 minutes of injury time, so that still gave along for Athlone plenty of chance to get something from this game, and they did. They won a penalty. Manning won it. He then stepped up and converted for his second of the game. And overall, you have to say, Athlone gave a great effort, and it would have been harsh on them if they didn't get that last minute equaliser.
Yeah, I believe Athlone were full value for the draw, and I was actually I saw Athlone on Monday night, and I was actually chatting to some of the people about the Friday night game, and they were full value for the draw, and they actually they looked really good going forward. But getting back to Drogheda, yeah, they are the closest challengers to Cabo. They'll be very disappointed to draw the match. They could have got out there, as you said, with a 3-2 win with that late penalty from Chris Lyons. And to concede an injury time will be a sickener, even if Athlone deserved it. Drogheda seemed to be doing very well at home and very impressive at home. And then on the road, just not being able to pick up the 3 points. I mean, they went to Tala. And they would have been expected to beat Shamrock Rovers 2. Now, I know they were 2 down with 10 men, but came back to draw 2-2. But and again, going to Athlone, they would have been expecting 3 points. And again, 3-3 is probably a disappointment. So it's, for away from home, Drogheda probably disappointing. To go back home on Monday night, it was a good win over Galway. I think it was an important win. They're gone to second place. They're the team that's chasing Cabo 5 points behind. But it's Cabo's to lose at the moment.
Yeah, just looking at from a Drogheda point of view, that victory against Galway Monday night, that was our first clean sheet of the season. So it's pretty obvious to see where the problems lie, not just this season, but it seems to be a team with them over the last couple of years. And until they tighten up defensively at the back, I can't really see them actually ever getting over the line automatically and still depending on playoffs.
Well, they had the heartbreak in the playoffs last year of losing to Finn Harps. I still think Drogheda will be looking at winning the division. I think that has to be their target. Okay, they've already lost to Cabo, but they'll feel they can still close that gap. 5 points is not a lot at this stage, and they still have to meet as well. So I would say Drogheda are still looking at winning the division.
Just looking at Athlone, they're one of the 3 sides that you've seen over the last couple of days. Obviously, you took in Bray, UCD Friday night, and UCD Athlone then on Monday night. It kind of seems like a similar story to them. They seem to kind of compete very, very well. They're a good young side that try and play the right way. Was that evident as well in their game against UCD on Monday night, which they were quite unlucky with until Joseph Mandy's brace in the second half?
Yeah, it was Athlone. They'll be gutted really. Athlone played very well in the first half, and they deservedly took the lead. Lee Duffy with a good goal, and they played really well. They were full value for the lead. Then UCD and Michael Gallagher sent off, and you're thinking at that stage, Athlone 1-0 up away from home against 10 men, and their failings are at the back. I mean, UCD were probably very, very fortunate to go in at the break level. Yo-Yo Magdi was brought down Liam Kerrigan was brought down. Yo-Yo Magdi took the penalty to make it 1-1, and you were thinking, yeah, if UCD can hang on for a point here, they'll be doing well. And Athlone, again, they took the game to UCD in the second half, but UCD played a lot smarter on the break, and Athlone looked vulnerable. And Yo-Yo Magdi won it for UCD with a great goal. And frankly, I think UCD deserved it, and both sides actually had another player sent off. UCD went down to 9 men, and when Jack Keeney was sent off, and then even I think the self-destruct button. You're actually thinking 11 against 9. Uh, Athlone still have a chance to nick a point, and they get someone sent off for the descent. I mean, and 10 against 9, UCD held out comfortably enough. So it's really frustrating for Athlone. They haven't won a match yet. They have good players. Ronan Manning looks a fine player. Lee Duffy is a threat. He's a goal threat, but they give away too many goals, and it's going to be hard to get anything. And I think they will be at the bottom or close to the bottom come the end of the season.
Yeah, it's Kieran Grogan, their player that was sent off Monday night, which would be frustrating because he's one of the more experienced players, so they're looking for kind of leadership and to set example. Let's kind of touch now on two more of the teams that you've seen in action the last couple of days. UCD, who you've seen twice, and Bray. A good 2-0 victory for Bray. This was on Friday night. Obviously, Darrell Lynch, the teenager, getting his first 2 goals for Bray. The first one, it was, don't get me wrong, a lovely individual goal. He got past 2 UCD defenders and then slotted past Lorcan Healy. But if you're a UCD player or anyone involved in their management, you'd be fuming because that goal came from a throw-in from their own half. So as to get the ball away that cheaply. And the second goal for Lynch was a header after getting on the end of a Callum Thompson cross. They had a good 1-0 victory then last night against Shamrock Rovers. It was just looking here, sorry, just get my notes. Ryan Graydon with the goal that
Ryan
came
Graydon
in the first.
with a bicycle kick, actually.
Yeah, meant to be a very spectacular effort. Just from looking at them two sides, it looks like they're going to be two sides that are going to be in and around 4th, 5th, trying to hang on to the playoffs. I can't see either of them haven't shown enough in terms of consistency. They're going to be up there challenging promotion. Would there be two sides from what you've seen over the last couple of days that you'd be confident that will make the playoffs?
Yeah, I'd be very confident Bray will make the playoffs. And I actually wouldn't rule out Bray from possibly, I don't think they will, but they could still win the division if they went on a run. I know they took a heavy defeat to Cabo very early at the start of the season. But I was really impressed with Bray. I mean, they're still, don't get me wrong, they're a limited enough side, but they defended very well. They're very well organised. They're very solid at the back. They have the likes of Killian Cantwell, Aaron Barry at the back, experienced league players. They basically played UCD on the break, and they still have Gary Shaw to come into the team. He's just he's on the bench. He's carrying a knock, actually. I mean, they're nursing him back to full health. And well, with Darrell Lynch's performance on Friday night, they can afford to take it easy. So Bray, they're well organised. They play the percentages. Darrell Lynch is actually only 16, and the potential star there because not just the 2 goals, but he led the line very well as well, and he was often up there on his own against the UCD defence. So and a good win again. I actually watched the first half last night on Facebook, and good win against Shamrock Rovers too. Great bicycle kick from Ryan Graydon. The ball was just bobbling around the box. It came off a few players and it came out of nothing. But again, solid defence. Gary Cronin's got to be very happy with the way his team are set up. And if you don't concede goals, you're always got a chance in this division. And since that hammering by Cabinteely, Bray haven't conceded very many. And if they get Gary Shaw back fully fit as well, they're always going to have a goal threat. So I think Bray will definitely be in the playoffs, and they have a chance of winning the division.
Just looking
from UCD, sorry.
I was just saying from a Bray perspective, like I was kind of saying about them just challenging for and securing a playoff place, but that point that you made about them possibly pushing for promotion, it doesn't seem that ludicrous because I think they've won 4 of their 5 games, or sorry, they've won 3 of their 5 games since they came back, 4 clean sheets, and the only game that they lost was that 3-1 defeat against Rotterdam. By all accounts, as me and Paul Tierney touched on last week, they actually played quite well and could have easily got back into that game with 2-2. So definitely reasons to be optimistic for the Seaside club. You're just going to continue on and touch on your prospects there for UCD.
Yeah, so I think UCD. I mean, I think I saw UCD twice, and You see the good and the bad. I mean, they actually played well in the Carlisle grounds. If you actually look at the stats for possession and territory, I don't know if the stats are actually taken. I don't see them for the first division, but they had a lot of the possession. They had a lot of the territory. Bray were being pushed back, but Brian Maher didn't have a lot to do in goal. They didn't create a lot of chances, and then you take that very disappointing defeat for UCD. You take that into Monday night and the first half performance. And I mean, Andy Myler said it afterwards to me. He wasn't happy. He wasn't happy with the first half performance, and he shouldn't have been. But then you look at the second half, and they're down to 10 men, and then go down to 9 men, and the fighting spirit was absolutely superb. They dug in, and the real adversity. Not only were they down to 10 men, it was an absolutely horrible night on Monday. It was pouring down with rain, and you're thinking it's very easy for a team to throw in the towel. They came back, got the goal just on half time and added time, and then won it in the second half. And even when they were down to 9 men for the last 7 or 8 minutes, they dug in, and you could see at the final whistle how much that win meant to them. So they go to Cabo on Friday night, and that will be a real test. But so I think UCD at this stage are probably the favourites for the last playoff spot. But I think they'll also be the target for a couple of the clubs below them.
Yeah, I think they kind of realise, even though there is quite a lot of experience in that team, I think 14 players that play Premier Division football, they still have lost a lot of big names over the last 2 or 3 years, and they are in kind of a transition or rebuilding phase, and probably know themselves it could even be maybe 2022 before they're back up to the heights of where they were in 2018 and challenging for a promotion seriously in that division. Let's just quickly touch as well on some of the other teams. We haven't touched on Shamrock Rovers 2, Wexford or Cove. You have to say over the last 4 or 5 days, Wexford have probably been the big losers there, because they seem like a side that could be a dark horse to make the playoffs. 2 good results since the league resumed, but that kind of has all been outdone and are back to square one with 2 hefty defeats over the last couple of days, away to Shamrock Rovers 2 and Cove as well. No goals scored, 6 conceded, doesn't make for pretty reading.
No, but in funny ways, they actually had quite a lot of chances, I believe. Now, look, I didn't really consider Wexford to be dark horses. I'll have to admit that, and I still don't. I don't think they're realistic challengers for promotion or even for the playoffs. They hit the woodwork a couple of times against Shamrock Rovers too. It was a pretty even first half, but Rovers got the goals, and even in Cove. Even though they lost 4-0, I believe Cove's debutant keeper Sean Barron had to make some great saves. So Wexford did push them, but as you said, they conceded 6 goals, which is a really bad sign. And the fact that they didn't score any, it's hard to take too many positives from Wexford. I think it's just another season of rebuilding for Wexford. I don't see them challenging for the playoffs, frankly. Wexford fans, let us know if you think we're wrong. Do you think there's still life in this side?
It seems to be that kind of way with Wexford for the last couple of years, rebuilding since their relegation back in 2016. And as I mentioned, they didn't help themselves, particularly watching the highlights of that Shamrock Rovers game. Like, they gave away a penalty, second goal, like they easily gave up possession in their own half that allowed Max Murphy to kind of just scroll on through and end that game as a contest. And as you touched on there, like against Cove, the debutant keeper Sean Barr, particularly in that second half, I think he was meant to be Cove's best player. And this is when the game was 3-0. So fair play to him, credit for not dying and giving up, although Cove did go on to get a 4th goal in that game through
Lee Devitt, actually. Lee Devitt got a couple of goals for Cove. He had a great game.
Yeah, who ends up with 2 goals in that game. Cove probably are out of them 2 sides. Shamrock Rovers 2, obviously, getting their first victory. And as we touched on, they're going to cause a couple of problems for teams. Even when in defeat against Bray, they still had their moments. Cove are one of them teams, I think they'll take a lot of positives from the last couple of games, because they went to the league leaders and for 45 minutes were the better team in Stradbrook and had a couple of good chances before eventually got worn down in the second half. And then to get an emphatic victory like that on Tuesday night would do wonders for their confidence ahead of Saturday's home game against Longford.
Yeah, so I think Cove looked at a team last season that were really building under Stephen Henderson, and were he was a big loss when he went to Shells. Stuart Ashton has taken over there, and he does seem to be starting to get things right, and they're probably one of the possible dark horses to sneak into the playoffs. And as you say, their game against Longford could tell a lot. It'd be a tough game for Longford as well. Um, you got to be impressed with 4-0, and I believe Sean Barron, the ex-Avondale keeper, he was very highly rated intermediate football, and he certainly made the step up um, on Tuesday night. So possible dark horses. They'll certainly be happy with that win. And as you say, a very good performance against Cabo. Probably feel they were worth the draw at Stradbrook.
Yeah, plenty of positives to take away from the East Cork side, and of course Sean Barron as well, former academy goalkeeper for Cork and Waterford as well. So nice to see him finally get his chance at senior level in the League of Ireland. Just briefly, Gary, before we finish up, we'll look ahead to this weekend's games, and you touched on it there just a few moments ago. Cavan TV versus UCD probably is the pick of the fixtures on Friday night. Going really well at Cavan TV. We mentioned all these injury setbacks. Nothing seems to be stopping in the way of gaining momentum up against the UCD side, who, as we touched on, they play nice football, but sometimes they can just maybe get a little bit lost in games. This is going to be a big test for them now Friday night.
Yeah, it will be a good test. Now, I mean, Yo-Yo Magdi came back. He had been out of the side for a while. He came back and got the 2 goals on Monday. So maybe, I presume he will start on Friday night. Maybe now UCD have found their feet in front of the goal. They can be a real threat to Cabo. It won't be easy for Cabo. I mean, because UCD, they're a young side. I think they are building for the future. I think Andy Myler will be given time. They're a great club, and they're very understanding, and they do realise that they produce some of the best players in the league, but they do realise they lose players. So it wouldn't be a disaster for them by any means, even if they missed out in the playoffs or lost out in the playoffs this year. As you said, Ger, I think they are looking 2021, 2022, etc. But they are capable of beating anyone. So it will be a tough game for Cabo, but Cabo just seem to be grinding out the results.
You mentioned a potential dark horse for automatic promotion still remains Bray Wanderers. They have a great chance to keep that going now when they travel to Eamon DC Park to take on a Galway team that are a little bit out of sorts at the moment, and remains to be seen who will be in the dugout for Friday night. This is a golden opportunity to kind of keep that push going for automatic promotion.
It is, but I think of all teams, I think Bray will probably be sorry to see the back of Alan Murphy. It's amazing how often it happens in football when a manager leaves, and even if the club's in a bit of disarray, that somehow the players seem to find a performance. And I think it's probably got a lot tougher for Bray, but it is a game they really have to go down to Eamon DC Park and win if they are looking at automatic promotion and at catching Cabo.
Yeah, another team as well that has definitely a strong aspiration to have catching Cavan TV is second place Drogheda away to Wexford, who obviously are coming out the back of 2 heavy defeats. Drogheda that good victory Monday night. This is also a game that they'll be definitely pinpointing for 3 points.
Yeah, definitely, Jar. I mean, I was talking about Drogheda, their last 2 away games. They would have been expecting 3 points. And no matter what you say about a good point or all they deserved in Tala or in Lissy Woolen, there is no result acceptable for Drogheda at this stage other than 3 points in Ferry Carrick Park. They have to go down to Wexford and win. And I think they will, but they seem to be 2 different teams in United Park and away from home. But I think they have to go and win on Friday night, and I think they will.
If 3 points, if nothing short of 3 points is acceptable for Drogheda, sure that statement applies to Longford for their away trip to Cove on Saturday night. Team that have been building nicely with a couple of good performances the last couple of weeks. This is kind of one where we could see an upset this weekend. Best bet for it, certainly.
Yeah, it's much tougher for Longford going to Cove. I mean, Cove will be absolutely buzzing coming off that win over Wexford. And it's never an easy place to go and get a result. I wouldn't be surprised. I'm going to sit in the fence in this one. I wouldn't be surprised if to see that ending in a draw. Um, if Longford can go there and win, it would be a really good way to bounce back from that defeat by Cabo. But a really tough game, and if Cove can get a win, then they're really in the mix for the playoffs, and they'll really fancy their chances. I mean, Cove will be looking probably and saying and hoping. Well, they'll know on Saturday whether Cabo have beaten UCD or not, but they'll be really breathing down the necks of UCD if Cabo were to win and if they were to get something out of the Longford game.
Yeah, Longford be in the opposite corner, very much hoping going into this game that it's UCD come off the back of victory against Cavan and it could definitely put them back in the picture firmly for promotion. Finally, then just to wrap things up as well for this weekend's first division action is the meeting of Athlone Town and Shamrock Rovers 2 on Friday night. Without sounding a little bit disrespectful, it's kind of a meaningless kind of fixture, just kind of fulfilling it because Shamrock Rovers 2 can't obviously get in the playoffs, regardless of where they finish, because of obviously being a second string team. And then for Athlone, as we've kind of said, while they're putting some good performances and being extremely competitive, their any slim hopes they had of promotion seems to die to the fact they have only still taken 2 points in the last 5 games.
Yeah, I think Athlone's target is probably just to get a win, and they haven't won a match.
Surely?
Well, potentially. I mean, Shamrock Rovers 2 in this league, it really depends on what players are available. I mean, you see the likes of Liam Scales playing for them, playing really well, and then he's back in the first team. So it does depend on what side goes down. I mean, the first team have a crucial game against Shelbourne, so you think maybe there could be a weakened Shamrock Rovers 2 that goes down to Athlone. So it is a great chance for Athlone to get a win, and I think even talking to them on Monday night, talking to the journalists that cover Athlone, they really are desperate for a win, and they're good going forward. They are well capable of winning it. Kieran Grogan's suspension is going to hurt them as well. As you said, he was an experienced player in the middle of the park for them. But yes, with the likes of Ronan Manning and Lee Duffy, they have the firepower, they have the ability to score goals, and maybe a first win for Athlone.
Yeah, it could actually be a good bet to have for the highest scoring game of the weekend because both like Shamrock Rovers 2 aren't shy of finding the back of net a couple of times this season and carry a good threat with Thomas Owala. And you touched on obviously plenty of experience with Liam Scales. I was even looking at their starting lineup for the Wexford game from Saturday. You had Sean Brennan, Brandon Kavanagh, and Aaron Bolger also in the starting team. Like they have plenty of appearances racked up between the three of them over the years in the Premier Division. So anything could be possible in that game Friday night. We've just gone over the half-hour mark there, Gary. So we're going to wrap it up there and leave it for this week on the First Division show. Obviously, so much to get through with 10 games since we last spoke last Wednesday, and obviously 5 more games to look forward to this weekend as we're nearing the halfway point of the season. And then after that, it does start to become squeaky bum time and the running. So as you touched on for a lot of teams there, it's really kind of start getting no excuses stage anymore at this stage. Thanks very much for joining us today, Gary. Of course, I think you're lined up as well for the Premier Division show with Paul, so that'll be coming out soon enough as well. If it actually hasn't come out already, not sure on the scheduling. But keep tuned to Irish Football Fan TV, where we hope to have loads of reaction to some of the games this weekend from both divisions up on our channel with post-match reaction and interviews. As I just said, thanks very much for joining us, Gary.
Sure.
And keep tuned here on Irish Football Fan TV and hope you all keep safe out there.